Nice to meet you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, and thank you for taking time here at your busy exhibition,
Yes.
Print 17 in Chicago.
Yes, thank you very much. It's wonderful to see you.
Who are you?
I'm Thayer Long. I'm the president of NPES. NPES is the association here in the United States, and our members are the technology providers, the exhibitors here at Print 17. Our members produce all the equipment, as well as all the graphic art supplies and the consumables and so forth that support the industry. So.
And I guess that, I mean, you have been here for 18 months now,
Yes.
so it's still pretty new for you.
Very new, very new.
But I guess that your organization, if any, has probably experienced some of the changes in this industry during the past, since the financial crisis.
Oh yeah,
basically.
very much so. I mean, the industry's in transformation. I think too often this term disruption, I think, is starting to become overused because, in my opinion, the disruption is really nothing more than another word to say change. And of course, we all know that things always change. So, but the industry, like many industries, the industries that I've worked in the past, is going through great transformation. And I think we're seeing great success as printers and agencies and as the providers are learning to change and adapt.
I think it's great that you take the positive approach, because I was actually also imagining, and not trying to put words in the mouth of you, but you know that change is also a matter of having change in time, right? And when you have something as radical as a financial crisis, and the market, I think globally has changed. I mean, if you look from the supply and demand from the end customers, right, it has really decreased very, very rapidly. So I think that for an organization like you, both with the memberships and also with having an event like this, haven't you seen or experienced a decrease in? I saw some of the booths were a little bit smaller this year, for example. Yeah.
Well, you know, we don't measure the success of a show, for instance, based on size. We measure the success. Are people making connections? Is the supply chain getting together and working through solutions together in order to be profitable?
So does that mean that if you look at the number of members you have in your organization, and if you look at the revenue generated especially in the American industry, it has not really affected anything, or is that what you're saying?
I think just through any transformation, we've seen companies come and we've seen companies go. So yes, I think on both sides, but I think I think the industry is very, very strong and continues to grow, and I know that there's going to be people that are going to dispute that, and they're going to say, how can you say with a straight face that the industry is growing? Well, you know, if we're not going to say that the industry is growing, then what are we doing here? Yeah. You know, we might as well just pack it in and do something else. So there is growth opportunities. You just have to know where to look for it. I sat through a really wonderful program today, heard from the Chief Marketing Officer of St. Joseph Communication out of Toronto, and his program was on how print and digital worlds are colliding. And look at all the wonderful things now that we're able to do through using print, combining it with AR, augmented reality, virtual reality, the RFID, capabilities and things that you're seeing that you already have seen in the industry for so long, and I think you're seeing take more of a prominent role.
So do you think that, I mean, I appreciate what you say, because I totally agree with you, even though I didn't participate in the event, but I was just wondering, because actually we spoke to Ron Gilbauer from Keypoint Intelligence yesterday about new print, and we spoke about that to our industry. Some of the things that can be seen as kind of, let's say, new print is actually just new because the commercial printers are starting to adapt 3D printing and printed electronics, this kind of thing. I was just wondering, when you talk about these marketing trends that you just referred to, is our industry and the players in the market, are they able to cope with all these changes and adapt that into their businesses and make sure that customers buy them, or is that a place for new rollers? Or
I think there's going to be a combination. You're going to certainly have the existing players that are going to have to learn to adapt and evolve, or not, and we all know what that outcome would be. And then, there's going to be opportunity for new players to come into the market, and I think that's a natural course of things, right? And so I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think we need to embrace it. I do think we need to look at the positioning of the industry and the companies within the industry, not just ours. Being able to live in a world of uncertainty in some cases. We have to be comfortable with the fact that we don't know what tomorrow will always bring, and we have to. That's a total attitudinal positioning that some people are going to be comfortable with and others won't.
We made an interview with Frank Romano last year in Orlando, actually, and I'm quoting just out of my head, and he said that when my students has been participating in some of my classes, the only thing they have hopefully learned when they are finished with the classes is that there's only one thing that is evidence, and that is change. Right? I mean, right. So that kind of refers to what you're saying. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think our industry is ancient, right? But in terms of the press, 500-600 years old, and I think we have to. The industry and the companies within the industry have to think of themselves as sort of a 500-year-old startup company. That's really kind of how certainly NPES is attempting to and will be positioning itself going forward. But
so is NPES? I mean, do you see your role also in making sure that your members and the industry will be able to actually take the shot on doing all these nice new things, right. Or is that a role that you see NPES in? Or?
Yes, I think our role as NPES is to help be a thought leader within the industry. Not the only one, but be a thought leader, be a player within the industry. And our goal and our positioning is to help connect the industry and connect the different elements of the supply chain together. And as the industry does get more complex, really, through the technology, through the application, the complexity of these projects is going to require greater collaboration between the different elements of the supply chain. So, as an example, traditionally, you could argue that manufacturers dealt primarily with the people that were buying and using their equipment. I think what you're seeing now is that there's got to be a greater collection and array of players at the table in order to execute. So it's not just the technology provider and the printer, but you may also have to bring in the creative agency, the brand owners, all working together in order to execute, a project. And so our role, I believe, going forward is going to really be strengthening those connections and bringing the industry together in alignment in order to achieve growth.
That's interesting because Jan and I participated in a industry event in Denmark 2 weeks ago, and one of the speakers there was like a company that was hiring, headhunting company for large design agencies, and he said that the people that we are hunting and the people that are in the highest demand is people with IT skills, because if you want to execute printed or electronic advertising and campaigns, you need to be able to get data that is relevant, otherwise you will not have a chance to execute orderly, right? Yes. So I think that when you say that you have these kind of businesses that has to work together, I think that also other kind of qualifications will apply to getting successful in our industry.
Absolutely, and I think we're seeing that with the industry as we're growing and transforming, and we're seeing the people in the industry grow, or in some cases begin to move on to do something else. Then we are looking at what the new talent needs to have in order to be successful in this industry. And your point about the data, absolutely. So, obviously you need someone that knows how to work the equipment, but then you also need to know all the data and the massive amounts of data now that is being collected and being integrated into an omnichannel marketing program, for instance.
Yeah, because when you say omnichannel, I think that is, I don't know so many American printers, but when I look at some of the European printers I know, I think that you have the big ones like Vistaprint and Simpress, like this, and you have a lot of mom and dad shops, and I think that if you look at the investment horizon they have, or the investment scope, or they have, it's difficult to imagine that maybe 80% of the printers, which are primarily family-owned mom and dad shops, they should have the skills and the money to invest in this area. So I think that also from an industry perspective, it needs to kind of be supported information-wise, and how do you actually do you get me at all?
Yeah, I do, yeah. And I think that's going to be important going forward as we look to the future and we look to the new talent coming in.
Because I was thinking, when you say about NPES, it's not measured by sizes of booth, right? Of course, but if 80% of your members' customers disappear, then the exhibition and the member organization, NPES, I mean, the entire industry will be completely different.
And that's why our focus for the exhibition, for instance, is really focused on helping the attendee come and help grow their business. And that's what the technology providers are here to do, the manufacturers are here to do. We have an analogy, a rising tide floats all boats. And so, our objective is to help grow the industry overall.
But that is a good one, because that is, I actually spoke to, I can't remember, somebody here on the floor yesterday, and I said that if you look at a lot of the manufacturers, I mean, if you just take an example, the industry is really pushing inkjet, right?
Right.
But it's funny, because if you ask consultants who are visiting printing houses how they can make their own business better, they often say, don't focus on technology, don't focus on that. You should focus on applications, you should focus on creating added value for your customers, and then technology is just supporting whatever way you want to do that. But when you go to a trade show, it's like, I mean, you have EFI just behind you. Everybody here is focusing on equipment, on products, and technology, and maybe less on how we can actually make sure that technology is used to help our end customers.
Well, I do think that's happening. I will say, I do think.
Also here? Or?
Yeah, I do think. I think that the companies here, we are focused on the begin with the end in mind, right? So begin with what are you attempting to achieve? What application are you attempting to produce? And then let's find the technology that's right for you. And I think you're seeing that in this industry. You look at all the partnerships now that are occurring between manufacturers, working together, because they realize that that's the best way to help the printers grow, is by giving them by putting as many tools in their toolbox as possible in order to achieve the desired outcome. And that's really encouraging to see, and that's what makes it, as you said earlier, only having been 18 months in the industry, but that really makes it exciting and enthusiastic for me to really see, members like the NPES members working together, working collaboratively, healthy competition, right? But working together, developing partnerships to really help their customers succeed and grow, and so it's very.
But I congratulate you on the show, because I mean. It's the first time I attend a print show. Otherwise, it's been the Graph Expo shows.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, and I was under stupid me, because I didn't read didn't do my homework. I thought that this print was more like, or maybe similar more to Drupa, that like it was like the premier thing, and then I was like surprised when I came here, because there's a lot of smaller exhibitors as well, and when you have browsed through the must-see-ems, basically, right? Then you also start to see that you have like still evaluating the craftsmanship. You see some with gilts, you see some with signs, you see somebody who's doing something that maybe not have a huge market, but having maybe the niche where you have high profit, which is, as you said, we have like a 500-year startup history, right? So to some extent, we just can't just forget the past in order to maybe seek for solutions in the future as well.
Yeah, but I think we need to have that mentality of a startup, right? Because that's the point. And I'm not alone in that. I remember reading something with GE, the big company, and Jeff Immelt, when he transformed that company, said we're trying to think of ourselves as a 125-year-old startup. So I think there's a lot to that, right? Beginning to sort of think differently. And once, if you think differently, then actions tend to follow, and they're positive ones. So, yeah, we're very excited, and I think the industry here, certainly North America, I feel very strong, and certainly has a bright future. But necessarily, how we will get there, I think is to be determined. And I think, again, we have to be comfortable with that. We have to be comfortable with knowing that. We will, we sort of know where we think we want to go. How we're actually going to get there is going to change day to day, and it's a lot of it because the consumer really has become the CEO in a lot of respects. I heard that today, and so we're going to.
How annoying is that? I mean, we thought we had like a senior position. Now everybody is
CEO.
Right.
Well, that's, but we can't fight that.
No.
So you gotta figure out a way, and that's what businesses do. They're in business to solve problems, and a lot of times, and so it's just a problem, or we could view it as a problem. You just view it as an opportunity. All right. So this is what the market is giving us. We can maybe try to change it a little bit and be successful, or we can also just find ways to adapt and evolve and also be successful in approaching it that way. So,
before we stop, I would like to touch upon one more thing, and that is some of the things that I have noticed also in your conversations with the nice people from PI World is that you said that you have also done some changes to print 17 in order to make a kind of new. Can you, for our viewers, just tell me a little bit about that?
You know, I think it's about bringing the community of print together. You know, once a year in North America, and that's that does distinguish us obviously from other shows, and you know, we are a show that does occur every year, and because that's the industry needs a place to come and to gather and to learn from each other, learn from the providers, and so that's been our focal point, is really working on asking our attendee, you know, the printers, who we all need to be successful, what are their up at night challenges?
Okay, so basically one of the things that you have put as a new thing in Print 17 is that you communicate closer with the attendees? Or?
Very much so. Not that we haven't in the past, but really working with our attendees, finding out what their up at night challenges are, and then providing them solutions to help them sleep at night. But those solutions come in a variety of ways. They certainly come on the exhibition floor, right, which you see behind me, absolutely. But they're also happening in educational programs that we're putting together.
I saw that too.
And
it sounds really interesting.
We've really emphasized and focused on that quite a bit. We're offering quite a bit of free education that goes on the show floor, in addition to our great friends at, say, the Printerverse and so forth. And then also just on the networking opportunities, you know, bringing people together, you know, through the education and through some activities on the show floor is really, really important. And so that's what our emphasis has been, and that's where our investment has been, as well as also to our exhibitors and helping support them bring the machinery that, you know, the vast amounts of equipment that you see behind me. So
I mean, there's pretty a lot of things here on the floor.
Yeah, there's quite a bit, and we're very happy to see that. So so that's our emphasis. Our emphasis is to use this event to help the industry grow.
And now I have got to know you a little bit more than I did an hour ago. I feel quite comfortable that you have also some ideas for the 18 show, right?
We do, but
is that anything you want to share, or is that the secret a little bit?
Well,
or?
I think what you'll see is a continued building off of what you're seeing here, you know, and you know we'll be here back in Chicago.
So can we make an appointment next year too?
Well, I'd love to sit down with you again next year, and I'm sure have some other changes that we'll announce. But just like I said, don't exactly know what those changes are going to be. We're going to have to.
Maybe Jan will be the one that makes the interview.
Maybe Jan will be the changes, but we'll have to see. We'll have to build off of this, and I can't say for certainty, you know, what it will look like in a year. But I have some ideas, and we'll work towards those.
Sounds great. Thank you very much, Thayer.
Thank you so much.